Okay, this is part 2 of the engine build video series, the final part. If you haven't watched the first part yet, go see that. I'll try and link it here, but it'll definitely be in the description. So yeah, let's just jump right back into it. Okay, now I have to put the oil jets in. Oil jets are just little, exactly what they sound like. You put them in, they fire oil where it needs to go, and they go down inside here. And they're just held on with a little hex nut. Well, a hex banjo bolt actually. Let's make sure they're magnetic for when I definitely drop them, yep. Oh man. Okay. So I gotta put it fairly loose. Can you see that? Well, if you can't see it, it's right there. And it can rotate. I'll hopefully use this thing. The jet can rotate, so the jet is right there and it can move around freely until you tighten it, but it has to not hit the crank. Okay, so in the piston itself, you want to make sure that you're not hitting this piece of it. You want to make sure you're in this gap here. I think that's how it's going to work. Okay, that fourth one is in, all the oil jets are in. That part is done. So next is the oil pickup. So here's the factory one. Right, oil comes in there, there's a little grate there. And you remember that from my teardown video where you saw all the crap jammed up there. So that just goes into the oil pan and picks up the oil. Now the problem is that as you're going around corners, it's possible that the oil sloshes around and then it gets sort of like pushed away from this by your centripetal force. So this is the mild solution that I picked up, and I've mentioned this before, but I thought I'd show it again. So basically, it's the same pickup overall, but it has these I guess, bracket or flanges and hinges all around it. So picture going around corners as the oil is sloshing, or as the oil is coming in, then it just pushes the little doors open. But if you happen to turn a corner, right, you'll see that the doors actually close and hold the oil in. So the idea would be, it's pretty low-tech solution to the problem, but basically it just keeps more oil close to the pickup. Will it solve all the problems? No, eventually you have to go to like a dry sump or like a pressurized oil system. But I don't think I'm gonna be turning so hard that I'll need that right away. For now, we're just gonna put this in. Now these are pretty easy to put in. It's just 2 bolts to hold it in. And it came with a new gasket. Okay, new day. I'm gonna put this gasket in. It's quite easy. Can't really get this wrong. It's shaped exactly the same as the bottom of the engine. And then we'll put the oil pan on. So that's the oil pan, and I think all the bottom end done. So let's flip it around and start on the other side. Okay, we've got the new head gasket here. Gonna toss that on. Doesn't need any sealant or anything. Is there an up or down? It appears to be identical on both sides. But it also just locks into place because there's some studs here, so that's good. It'll go in both ways. Oh, smart design. It will only go in one way, so great. No, I can't mess that up. We've got some Engine Tech head bolts. They're just OEM replacements. You know, we're not doing anything too crazy with this engine, so I just went with the OEM replacements. They're way cheaper. You have to throw them out, so I needed new ones. But yeah, just gonna put those in. The head is always way heavier than I remember it being. As soon as it has to go down onto the pegs, like the other thing, like the head gasket, or the pegs. I feel like it should click on. Oh, there we go. Okay, that clicked into place. So again, we'll go finger tight. Just thought of something. Before I tighten these, I want this to be semi-close to in time. And you can go watch my video on how to put things into time, or how to replace a timing chain. And I just want to make sure that I don't have to turn it too much to get it into time. No, it's close already. All right. Okay. Once again, we have a tightening sequence. These ones are 30 pound-foot. Okay, so go to 30, then turn an additional 90 degrees, and the small ones are just 20 pounds. So let's do the small. All right. Yeah, okay. And last one. Okay. Okay, I just realized something. This is the old gear, cam gear. I had that new one off the brand new set I did in one of the earlier videos. And this one, the one on the crank, was inspected at a machine shop, but this one wasn't. And I think it's probably got problems. So I gotta put the new one in. So this is the timing chain installed. You've seen me do this before. And then you'll see that the two black marks go with the two arrows at the top. Black mark goes with the little notch. So that means the engine is in time. Okay, now I am going to put the oil pump and cover back on. Why am I taking it out of a bag, you ask? Well, I looked. So this is the cover, and you've seen me take these on and off and clean them before and replace this main seal here and all the gaskets. But the oil pump itself is just this part of it. So I guess as it turns on the crank, it puts oil pressure in here and pumps it through the engine. And I was like, well, I think I'm gonna replace the oil pump. And it was cheaper. I found this whole thing with gaskets and everything cheaper, brand new, than getting just an oil pump. So I figured, why not? This one always confuses me a bit. There's two holes here for the idler pulley. And from what I can tell in the forums, that maybe this was different design in the earlier models, like pre-facelift. Since this is an 06, I guess, I don't know, but I've seen a lot of videos, even in the Mod Mini, he just puts it back into this second hole up here, so I'm gonna do the same. Crank pulley bolt. Pretty sure you can reuse these, but it was like a couple of dollars on another order, so might as well add it. Okay, so the crank pulley, obviously I have that lightened one, gotta heat it up. And now let's get it on. I'm supposed to heat it to 300 degrees Fahrenheit, and then just slide it right on, and then the bolt should catch and pull it on the rest of the way. Do we have it in far enough? Yes, we do. And this is 85 foot-pounds. And I've got the blocker up here, so that's why it's not spinning when I torque it down here. Just gonna double check. 85, yeah. This could be a while because this is gonna pull the pulley onto the crank a bit before it tightens on. Oh, now we're starting to get some tension. Okay, tensioner, another tensioner. This goes on here, and this is a very common failure point, I believe, on these cars. So a new one cannot hurt. Okay, obviously the belt, the main belt, accessory belt, weaves through here. The failure point on these tensioners appears to be this strut here, the shock here. And when that fails, when this is all under tension, apparently this piece comes down, falls down and hits the crank pulley and destroys everything. So the same company that makes this wheel also makes these little retaining clips. I'll just put it on right there, and that way if it fails, it doesn't destroy everything, it just fails and I can replace it. It's like a $10 sort of safety device. Okay, our old friend, the oil filter housing. It's all been cleaned out. Now it gets a new gasket. Long ago, I actually had a video pretty much filmed but not edited or anything about cleaning this up and saving these bolts and changing the seals on them. These are the bolts for the valve cover. Yeah, you'll probably never see that, but just know that I did put a lot of effort into this. And there are some parts here. The seals themselves, I think you can get them off I think it's a PT Cruiser. They're a lot easier to find. But the bolts themselves, they're a crazy shape. You can't find them anywhere, and they're hella expensive from BMW, so try and save them as much as you can. I had to use, off the 2 engines, I got 1 good set. I also replaced all the seals in here. Oh, so there's supposed to be oh yeah, and the gasket. So the gasket here and all the seals inside were replaced. The valve cover bolts, some of them are longer for little brackets to stick up off of them. So wires can be guided and hoses and that type of thing. So I'll go find the diagram for which ones go where. I'll put it up on the screen here. So these bolts only go on with 9 foot-pounds. They don't even give it in, they give it in like inch pounds, I guess. So not very tight. I don't have a torque wrench that goes to 9, so I'll just make sure it's tight, but not too tight. These are the spark plugs I got. I believe these are considered the 1 step colder that someone mentioned in the comments. Okay, putting the actual coils in is brain dead easy. You can't miss them. They're numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. The actual tunnels or the whatever. The cylinders here are labeled 1, 2, 3, 4. So, okay, I have water, I guess blockers type of thing, or for the inlet, and then just a blocker. They're pretty disgusting, so I'm gonna run them through the cleaner before I put them on there, and hopefully somewhere in my pile of gaskets I have new gaskets for these. Okay, so there's 2 gaskets here. There's one in this water inlet here, and then this one is just like a cap with a gasket behind it. And all the kits, I think a lot of people replace this. It probably leaks a lot, so people are always replacing this one. This one not so much, so it wasn't included in anything that I bought, so I have to wait for that because I have to get that on before I can put the manifold on, before I can put the supercharger on. So for me today, that's it. I'll wait for that gasket, but for you, I'll just come back and continue in a couple seconds. You may remember me fighting with the intake manifold. This is the wrong side. You may remember me fighting with the intake manifold, trying to get it off and breaking it and having to buy a new one off of eBay. So I just cleaned that up. The one I got off eBay looks fine. And then this is the new set of bolts I got. Yeah, so those are studs, so I'll put those in. And then the nice thing about those is that they probably shouldn't rust as bad or get stuck on. Not that I'm gonna be taking that on and off a lot, but they were actually end up being cheaper than the original bolts, and I think they're gonna be better. So let's put those in. So that's what they look like. So you thread them into the block. There's a little hex on the end, and these will keep the manifold on. Sanding and priming and painting these little covers here in the water inlet, so I'm just waiting for those to dry right now, which is why I worked on the studs. Now I'll put the alternator back on. Remember, this is the old one. Can't turn. Here's the fancy new one. I can spin it easily with my fingers. Okay, I found my crank position sensor. I know these can have problems leaking. This one looks like either one of the other leaks was getting onto it or it was leaking. It's pretty dirty, so I'll just clean that up. And I think that blue is the gasket, and I should have a new gasket for that. Okay, new gasket. Okay, I've got the two pieces here. I'll paint it up and dry. I did actually have, turns out I did have the proper gasket for this cover. Just it was labeled other gasket for some reason on the package, so I couldn't quite identify her, but that's the right one. I'll put those on. Okay, I've got my gasket on already. Looking pretty good. I cleaned that up beforehand, so nice and shiny. Now the supercharger, right? One small thing is somebody in the comments mentioned that I should put thread locker on the pulley, so I'll just add that to the pulley before I put the supercharger on. But that's what's next. Oh. I think I have to take the alternator off. Yep. Ugh. Let's redo this. So this actually goes through the bottom of the supercharger and holds it in place, which makes a lot more sense. Okay. One fell out of the bag. Got it. I was wondering where this one came from. So two go up here, and probably just the one goes down here. So this probably goes up here with this one. And this one probably goes down here. That makes a lot more sense. That also implies that I am not going to question Mod Mini, but I think he only puts one bolt in here. So I'm not sure what's up with that. Yeah, I mean, it says two M8s times 60, that's those two, and one M10 by 40, that's this. That is one rebuilt engine. Ta-da. Well, I am happy with it. Will it run? I have no idea. We'll find out soon enough, I suppose. There's that glimmer of hope that this engine will run before snow hits the ground this year. Everything I can do to it right now is back on the engine while it's on the engine stand. So the next step will be to put it up on the crane, take it off the engine stand, get the rear main seal replaced, put the flywheel on, put the clutch plate on, and then get the transmission mated back up to get it put back in the car. That'll probably be the next video. Speaking of the transmission, I'm hoping to sort of ask the gallery here, phone a friend, if you guys have any suggestions, or is there anything in the transmission that I need to replace, gaskets or bushings or anything like that in the actual transmission itself other than the clutch plate? And obviously I've done the shift cables and everything, but I just don't know. It looks fine, but you know, anything that I should be replacing, let me know and I'll replace that before I put it all back together. Appreciate any advice there. So yeah, I think next video you'll see me do the rest of it. I would say there'll be one more video where I'm doing some stuff, and then the video after that will be me putting it back into the car. So until then, I appreciate you watching all the videos, and I'll see you next time.